Hello, dear viewers. My name is Fardin Nouri, and I'm a migration consultant in Germany. Today, I would like to share with you a very important information about the asylum application and the asylum procedure in Germany. If you want to apply for asylum in Germany, you can directly refer to the border police of Germany and tell them that you want to apply for asylum. Or if you have already entered Germany, you can refer to a police station or to a foreigner's office, which in German it is called Ausländerbehörde, and tell them about the fact that you want to apply for asylum. They will then send you to an initial reception center, which in German it is called Erstaufnahmeeinrichtung. It is worth mentioning that the initial reception center is known among the asylum seekers in Germany as the first camp of the asylum seekers. You can also refer directly to an initial reception center and apply for asylum. However, in this stage, you only register yourself for asylum, and the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany will take your interview later about the fact that how and via which countries you came to Germany and with which dangers, threats, and problems you have been faced in your country of origin. Remember that all your documents and identification cards are important. That is why you should either make a copy or a picture of them before submitting them to the German authorities. If during your asylum procedure the German authorities take your documents or your materials such as your mobile or your laptop, you should ask them to give you a confirmation for it. Keep this confirmation with you and do not lose it. In addition, you should take care that all your personal information, such as your first name, your last name, your date of birth, and your place of birth, are written correctly in all the documents you get in Germany. Because if you don't do so, you will later face lots of problems in Germany. In most of the cases, in the initial reception center of the asylum seekers, the branch office of the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany and the other relevant German authorities responsible for the registration and taking care of the asylum seekers are also present. And in such a case, this camp is called Ankunftszentrum, which in English means arrival center. And in some cities of Germany, this center is called Ankerzentrum. When you refer to an initial reception center or you're being sent to an initial reception center and you register yourself there, you may remain in the same state of Germany where this initial reception center is located, or you may be sent to another state of Germany. In fact, this is done through a computer system of the German federal authorities, which is called Erstverteilung von Asylbegehrenden in German language, and it is known by its acronym EASY. In English, it means Initial Distribution of Asylum Seekers. Via this system, these authorities check which state of Germany has the capacity of taking new asylum seekers in, and in which branch office of the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany the asylum application of an asylum seeker from a specific country is being processed, and after these authorities specify another state for the residence of an asylum seeker, he or she will be sent to that state, and he or she will also be given a letter based on which he or she will be transferred to another state. This letter is called Anlaufbescheinigung or Zuweisungsbescheid in German language. In fact, the asylum seekers cannot change the decision of sending them to another state or about their staying in a specific state of Germany. Therefore, when the decision is being made about their transferring to another state and they are being set to go to another initial reception center in another state, they must go to the other state and register themselves in that initial reception center on time. Otherwise, the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany may stop processing their asylum application. It is worth mentioning that when an asylum seeker registers himself in an initial reception center after his arrival in a German state, he mostly remains in the same state and he is rarely being transferred to another state of Germany. In the initial reception center, the biometrical information and personal information of the asylum seekers are being taken and registered, for example, through their photo and their fingerprint. Actually, the fingerprints of the asylum seekers are taken from the children of 6 years of age to the oldest asylum seekers. The information taken from the asylum seekers are being registered in the Central Register of Foreigners, which in German it is called Ausländerzentralregister. And based on this information, it is, for example, being checked whether an asylum seeker is applying for asylum for the first time in Germany or not. In addition, the fingerprint of the asylum seekers are also being shared with the European database called Eurodac. And based on that, it is being checked whether the fingerprint of the asylum seeker has already been registered in another European country or not. Because among the member states to the Dublin regulation, only one country can be at the same time responsible for the asylum procedure of an individual, not more than one of them. This process of checking the fingerprints of the asylum seekers in Eurodac is part of the asylum procedure in Germany, and it is done based on the Dublin regulation. It is worth mentioning that I've already explained about the Dublin procedure in Germany with all its details in another video in this YouTube channel. I will also put the link of it in the description part of this video for you. After registration of the asylum seekers in the initial reception center, they are given a proof of arrival which is called Ankunftsnachweis in German language. This document is the first official document based on which the asylum seeker can officially reside in Germany and can get social benefits such as a shelter, healthcare, food, and many in this country. These asylum seekers will then apply for an asylum in the branch office of the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany, which is usually also located in the same initial reception center. The asylum seekers have to make their asylum application by themselves, and this office will arrange a translator in their native language for them. If the biometrical and personal information of the asylum seeker has not been registered yet, it must be done at this stage, and the asylum seeker is obligated to clarify his identity with the documents he has. In fact, the asylum seeker can clarify his identity via his national passport or other official documents from his country of origin, such as via his birth certificate, his driving license, and so on. These documents will be then checked by the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany whether they are real or fake. At this stage, the asylum seeker might also be asked about the fact that via which countries he came to Germany. However, in some branch offices of the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany, these questions are being asked later, during the other interview of the asylum seeker, in which he is also being asked about the dangers, threats, and problems he has been faced in his country of origin. And this interview is called Anhörung in German language. It is worth mentioning that only in exceptional cases can an asylum seeker apply for asylum in a written form in Germany. For example, if he already has a residence card in Germany which has a validity of more than 6 months, if he is an underage child, or if he is in a hospital. When the asylum seeker applies for asylum in the Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany, he is given a temporary residence permit named Aufenthaltsgestattung in German language. Having this temporary residence permit means that the asylum application of the holder of it is in the process and his residence in Germany is legal. In this temporary residence permit, the place of residence of the asylum seeker is restricted to the city or regional district in which his initial reception center is located. In German, this restriction to the place of residence is called Residenzpflicht. It is worth mentioning that While having a proof of arrival or unconstitutionalized, the residence of the asylum seeker is also restricted to the city or regional district where his initial reception center is located. In fact, the asylum seekers are basically obligated to stay in their initial reception center for up to 18 months. However, for the families with minor children and their adult siblings, there is an exception. The compulsory residence for them in the initial reception center are 6 months. Those asylum seekers who have come from a safe third country to Germany must stay in their initial reception center until the decision is being made about their asylum application in Germany, and in case their asylum application is being rejected, they must stay in this center until they voluntarily return to their country of origin or until they are being deported to their country of origin. In some special cases, for example, in order to join their family members, it is possible that the asylum seekers are being sent to another initial reception center. If, for example, a member or members of your family or your close relatives live in another city of Germany and you want to join them or live close to them, or if you have an illness based on which you cannot stay in a big camp, or if you're under 18 years of age while applying for asylum, you should mention to the responsible German authorities about them so that they consider them while transferring you to another initial reception center in another city or regional district in Germany. It is worth mentioning that I've already explained about the compulsory residence in the first camp or in the initial reception center in another video in this YouTube channel. I will also put the link of it in the description part of this video for you. After the asylum seeker applies for asylum in one of the branch offices of the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany, and his fingerprint and his documents are being checked, and based on them, it is found out that according to the Dublin regulation, no other European country is responsible for his asylum case, or if the German authorities take the responsibility of his case, his asylum application is then processed in Germany. In fact, the interview of the asylum seeker about the dangers, threats, and problems he has been faced with in his country of origin should be taken soon after his asylum application in Germany. And sometimes it is also the case, and their interview is being taken soon after their registration for asylum application. However, sometimes the asylum seekers must wait for this interview for months so that the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany sends them an appointment for this interview via a letter. It is worth mentioning that I'll explain about the content of this interview, the types of questions being asked during this interview, and which points should be considered before, during, and after this interview in my other video in the coming days in this YouTube channel. After this interview, the result of the asylum application of the asylum seeker is being sent by the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany via a letter to him. This result may be positive, based on which the asylum seeker may get an asylum protection, a refugee protection, a subsidiary protection, or a national ban on deportation in Germany, or it may be a negative result, based on which the asylum seeker get a type of rejection from this office. It is worth mentioning that I've already explained about the types of protections and the types of rejections in Germany which an asylum seeker may get from the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees of Germany in different videos in this YouTube channel. I will also put the link of some of these videos in the description part of this video for you. Thanks a lot for watching my video. If you would like to get similar important information about the immigration laws in Germany, your rights and duties in German society, the living conditions in Germany, and other such important topics, please subscribe and follow our channel. If you have any questions or remarks about today's topic, you can write it under this video and I will be more than happy to answer it for you.